Let's turn to Donna Jones, the Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner for Hampshire, who joins us now. Donna Jones, welcome to you. What did you make of this decision at first blush?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, poor little Peter's face is one that I think will live with most of us for the rest of our lives. Seeing, his bright blue eyes and his little face looking up, and it's one of those cases that was so shocking at the time that it broke the nation's hearts, and it's still with us. And what those two individuals did, what she did as a mother, to allow two men, and particularly the partner you've just mentioned, to commit such horrific injuries to a defenceless and helpless child, a child whose spine was snapped when he was found dead. It really is an utter disgrace, and it's why we do need a review of the sentencing for criminals, for people who hurt children and who kill children.
What would be, Donna, an appropriate sentence for this woman? I mean, would you throw away the key?
Yes, I would, for both of them. Life for me, for someone who kills children, life should mean life. If you take a life of an innocent child, you should be spending the rest of your life behind bars and never walking free again. And whilst I do support the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, when it comes to some of the most depraved crimes in our societies, of which this is one, that child had done absolutely nothing to anybody other than just try and live and survive. There were multiple failings in this case, but what concerns me most is that there are two competing demands here. One is punishment, the punitive element of sending somebody to prison for what they've done wrong in killing another human being or allowing a child to be killed in this way. And secondly, the protection of the public. And as you said at the very beginning, this woman was given an indefinite sentence, an IPP, an imprisonment for public protection order as well. And that was done because she was deemed to be such high risk to the people of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And yet, here we are, 13 years later, 4 parole boards later, where they are now looking at releasing her, not the first time, but in fact the second time. She was released once previously and was recalled for breaking licence conditions. And I've been looking at the parole board's recommendations, 20 licence conditions to keep her away from committing any further crimes and protecting the public. If you need to put that many licence conditions in place to prevent somebody from committing harm to children or anyone else in society, I would argue that they should still be behind bars, because actually they do still pose a significant risk to the public. And I really welcome the Lord Chancellor's decision today to appeal the parole board's decision.
There's a lot to agree with there. Let me just play devil's advocate, if I may. You quite rightly say this was a hugely high-profile case. It tugged at the heartstrings of the entire nation. We see the picture. We remember the picture. One of the reasons, maybe the chief reason, it became such a cause celeb was because of those 60 visits I mentioned at the beginning. This was a home where, when the police arrived, when the crime had been committed, it was hard to determine where the dog faeces started and the human faeces began. It was hideous, disgusting conditions. Social services didn't spot the danger signs. And I'm one of those people, by the way, who doesn't think we should always blame social services. This was done by a perpetrator, which brings me on to the next point. The perpetrator is doing a long stretch, 32 years. He delivered the fatal blows. She allowed it to happen. There has to be a difference in, I mean, coming back to my question about what you think is a fair stretch, there has to be a difference between what he gets as the individual who tortured this child to death and what she got, this woman who's the daughter of a drug addict, a sad, pathetic individual, but who didn't actually land the fatal blows.
Well, even if, let's just take the point that you've said there at its highest. Let's agree with the point that you've made there, that there should be a difference between them. And I think in terms of culpability, as the mother, as the person that has the parental guardianship, the legal responsibility for that child, I would argue her culpability is incredibly high. I've got 2 children. I'm a mother. I can't even comprehend. You can't, rationalise irrational behaviour. So I'm not going to even try and do that. However, do we think that 13 years is sufficient for somebody like her who allowed that to happen to that poor child? No, I don't think that's a long enough sentence.
Donna Jones, thanks.